Maybe we could get back to talking about asana, and if you could clarify what asana means and the purpose of asana, the intention.
Yeah, it's a very broad topic and very relevant topic as modern yoga becomes more asana centric. We need to really understand the substance of asana. If you look at the word asana, it etymologically it means to be. You have to really understand asana as to be. Asana means to be. So it is not, it doesn't connote action, but it connotes a state.
Is that not, and is it primarily or not necessarily primarily a physical state, or is it actually just...
It is not primarily a physical state. Anything which is understood to be is asana. For example, in many Indian languages, and even in Sanskrit, asana means a seat. A chair is known as asana. A cushion, like what we are sitting on right now, is an asana. So if you come to India, and in some languages, they would say, "Oh, Tom, welcome, take your asana." So you don't immediately go into warrior or headstand. You pull your chair and you sit. So asana signifies just be. Like I'm a guest and you come and I say, "Hey, Tom, take an asana." But take your seat, like we say in English.
Yeah.
Please take your seat. So literally, it doesn't connote an action from etymological, Sanskrit etymological sense. It means a state to be. So you plonk on your sofa and just, that's more closer to the technical meaning of asana than you doing a warrior too.
Yeah.
So asana signifies a state of being and not necessarily a state of action.
So how has asana then come to mean what it seems to mean in the modern yoga world?
Because to be has to be preceded by to do. You cannot be without the do. Isn't it? And when I say, Tom,
this is chicken or the egg.
Yeah, it's like when you come to my house and say, "Hey Tom, nice to see you. Please relax."
So you do into being there.
Yeah, you relax on the sofa, I'll make some drinks for you. So when Tom relaxes on the sofa, he has to do the action of sitting. But what is the end point? End point of Tom can relax in the sofa. Right? Now if I'm making a drink for you, and when I come back you're like this on the sofa. You know? I will say, "Hey Tom, what happened? Why are you not sitting?"
Yeah.
But technically you're sitting, but you're like this.
So turn around looking for that comfortable spot. Yeah.
So modern yoga has got fascinated with the act of sitting rather than just sitting. We have got lost in the action. It's like literally if you break down sitting, literally break down being, to be and to do.
Yeah.
So to do, so the whole act of sitting, and then sit. So traditionally, asana means to sit. But to sit, you have to bend your knees and bend through your lower back and then, take your body down closer to the ground. So we have got so fascinated by this whole action thing that we have somewhere got lost the whole essence of the end point.
That's interesting because if you think about it, I guess it's maybe seems so commonplace if you think about sitting on the sofa, that But in the moment of posing, basically you have to accept finally, just, oh, I'm here, so just accept here, okay.
Absolutely.
And so it's acceptance is, in a sense, the quality that's maybe missing now in modern asana practice. Is that, would you say that's a fair statement, or? The acceptance of, I'm thinking like the acceptance of one's, because if I'm always striving for more perfect trikonasana, then obviously I'm not really, I'm being that person who's doing this constantly. I haven't sat down and here I am, and I'm in my trikonasana now, and I'm just going to relax into it.
That would be a sense of being. See, trikonasana. There's something called doing a trikonasana, and there's something called as becoming a trikonasana. Yeah? A lotus posture, padmasana. Bending of the knees and sitting on the sit bones, and this is just the technique. It's like literally like I gave you the recipe, but just because I give you the recipe doesn't mean you've cooked the recipe. So what we understand as asana is the whole cooking process, but what traditional yoga understands asana is just this dish that is in front of you. So we are so got wrapped up in the ingredients and 20 grams of chili and 30 grams of salt and 20 grams of pepper that we've forgotten that ultimately we are cooking something to satisfy hunger. So I think it should not be looked at as a verb anymore. It should just be looked at as a state. But also we have to understand that the doing part is also not, it also needs to be emphasized. So it's not
one without the other.
It's integral part of it. You have to bend your knees to sit on the sofa. You cannot relax unless you can let go of the body. And one has to remind oneself while doing the asana practice that I have to somewhere take the physical position and go back to assessing the state of my mind. And this is how the orientation should be. Take the physical position and then assess the mind. Take the physical position, assess the mind. Okay, I do my trikonasana. What is my mind saying? It's content. It is content. I have not reached the floor, but my mind is content. How is my breath? Nice and quiet and harmonious, as if I am sitting on the sofa. Nice. That's my asana. That is my asana. But if I am trying to go 2 more inches, look at that woman next to me. She's reached the floor already. Wow, her triangle is so sharp. My triangle is so sloppy. No, I started 6 months ago. No, that's not an asana. It's an action. And even the definitions, Hatha yogic definitions are also like this. Nowadays we understand asana from the perspective of Patanjali. And I want to clarify this. Asanas that we do, the modern yoga, the asanas that modern yoga does, come from Hatha yoga philosophy or Hatha yoga school of thought. But asana, the definition that is given for asana nowadays is from Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, which is not it is not Hatha yoga. And I'm not going into the basics, but Patanjali was not a Hatha yogi. Patanjali did not write the Yoga Sutras from a point of view of body. Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga is a manual of psychological refinement.
Yeah, very much so.
So when Patanjali talks about asana, he is just mentioning the asana in the form of a physical state that you take. But Hatha Yoga books, the ones that come from the lineage of Matsyendranath and Gorakhnath, that have nothing much to do with Patanjali, though there is some influence and inspiration. In that school of thought, asana was looked at as movement of the body to adjust the pranic currents, movement of the body to cleanse the nadis, movement of the bodies to open and refine the chakras, movements of the bodies to build awareness, and movement of the body to generate a sense of relaxed, effortless state of body. So I'm just giving you 5 variables on which asana is assessed in traditional Hatha Yoga. So Hatha Yoga philosophy will say you move the body only for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You move the body. Yes. That's why if you look at the asanas described in Gheran Samhita, Hatha Pradipika, Shiva Samhita, or even older scriptures, it's about movement. But what is the end point of the movement? Not to build flexibility, not to touch the floor, or not to take your picture and put it on Instagram. The objective of asana was to refine the body so that one day you can sit still. Why to sit still? Because unless you sit still, you will not hold the mind. And why do you need to hold the mind? Unless and until you hold the mind, you will not realize that there is another universe which is as splendorous as the external universe that you have within. And this all religious paths or spiritual paths are agreed. Be still and know. Christ says.
Yeah.
Hatha Yoga books say, asanasya rajo hanti. And there are many points that come with this.
So then how do you see Hatha Yoga as a path? Because as a path, the way you described it, it's a path that leading towards the same goal as various other spiritual paths, and yet it's a path that's pays more particular attention to the state, the physiological state,
Yes.
and the subtle
Yes.
anatomy of the body.
Yes.
And so if the goal is the same, different people will choose different paths. To whom does the path of Hatha Yoga present itself as the most appropriate path? Like how to choose?
See, Hatha Yoga, and it's beautiful. Whatever we say about yoga is happening under the watchful eye of the universe or God or whatever you call it. That's why I feel this rise of asana-centric yoga is also good. You know why? Because we are living in a time and age where mind is so externalized that people have absolutely no idea even of their body.
That's true.
And that's why I feel Hatha Yoga is a perfect age for the rise of Hatha Yoga. Why? Because Hatha Yoga is perhaps the only path that says accept the body, work with the body, and refine the body to reach the mind. Then accept the mind, work with the mind, refine the mind to reach the something that is much subtle. So that's why Hatha Yoga is a perfect path for Kali Yuga, as they would say. Why? Because we are living in a day and age where mind and senses are just driven externally. Hatha Yoga, through the asana aspects, at least can bring the senses and awareness at least to the superficial layer of the body.
Yes, so
Then
it begins to bring it back in.
Yes. It's the first turnaround, you could say.
Mm.
That's why Hatha Yoga, that's why nowadays if you see, Tom, you are a yoga teacher. If you announce a asana class, 20 people will come. If you announce a meditation class, 2 people.
Yeah. Very true.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Let those 20 people come to the asana class. You make them bring the awareness to the body.
Mm.
And then they will come to you and they say, okay, now Tom, as a teacher, let me tell you, now I feel my body. Now I'm curious. Is there something more? What can I do? Then you say, okay, come to my pranayama class.
Mm.
I do meditation class once a week. Come to that.
Mm. Try that.
Asana
Yeah.
can be the first wing that they can come to. And it's okay.
And very often it seems actually it must be because even to sit, quite literally for meditation, it's uncomfortable and you fidget because the body is not used to being this way and the holding itself.
Also, we have to understand that we blame a lot on the body.
Mm-hmm.
But I have another perspective. From a Hatha Yoga perspective, is body is what the mind is. Please understand this. Body is the gross of the mind. Body is what the mind creates. Means, I'll tell you. You have orange colored water and you freeze it. And then you bring it out of your freezer. You will have orange ice. It will not become white. It will not become grey. It will not become green. No. Why is it orange ice? Because the water that created the ice, that froze, that condensed, was orange, so the ice became orange. So the body is nothing but manifestation of the mind. We have to understand. And this is Hatha Yoga view. So whatever you say, I cannot sit in the meditation because my joints are too stiff. Yes, joints are stiff. I'm not saying no. But why are the joints stiff? Because the mind is stiff. Why are the joints too lax? Because the mind is too hyperactive. We have to go to the subtle aspect. The mind creates the body.
This is a harder connection for most people to realize. They can maybe hold it as an idea, an abstract idea, but to actually see for oneself an example of that. Do you have in a more kind of humble example, perhaps? Is there any that somebody within an asana practice might be able to start to get a grasp of what you're talking about? Can you point to any example of such a thing?
A simple example. Why do people say, I feel so opened up after a asana class?
Yeah.
And I'm saying asana class. I want to be very specific about the terms I use. Let's assume that you teach a class on a purely physical level. Okay? But physical doesn't mean only muscles, also awareness on the breath and the sensations. Okay? Still the people will say, thank you, class was so good, I feel so opened up, I feel so free, I feel so relaxed.
Yeah.
Why do they say that? Because in that 1 hour, the mind was, at least an attempt was made for the mind to be reined in and awareness to be kept in the body. The movement that was done for that 1 hour was conscious, mindful.
Yeah.
But the other 23 hours, that person had not lived mindfully. That man had lived out of instincts.
So for one example, then, looking in the reverse, you might have somebody who is living with a lot of stiffness and back pain and not even realize to what extent they're holding themselves stiff because of tension at work and stress, and they don't even realize that they've stuck all that tension in here and not being aware of that. All they know is, I have a sore back, and I can't do that because my back is stiff.
Yes.
And if they were to come in and relax, and suddenly there's maybe more movement than was thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so common that people say, oh, I have lower back problem.
Mm.
And then they will tell you, oh, I went to the doctor took an x-ray, but nothing was seen.
Mm.
So doctor doesn't know, so he just gave me an injection and now I'm fine. But he said come every 6 weeks for the injection. We don't understand where it's coming from.
Mm. Yeah.
Ultimately, everything is psychosomatic.
Mm.
Even a traumatic fall ideally would be psychosomatic. I have had so many students who are so busy, and one day they fall down.
Yeah.
And they break their ankle or something like that. And then bed rest for 4 weeks. They love it. They love it. And then, what happened? Why are you not coming to the class? They say, oh, because I fell down, I was rushing somewhere and I just sprained my ankle. Of course, you were so rushing that the universe or your mind or your body wanted to make you stop, and this is the only way it could stop you. But then when they are on the bed rest for 4 weeks, it's not necessary that they are relaxed. The 4 weeks, they will not be relaxed. They will be even more distraught than before.
I know people like this.
Yeah, because the mind is still agitated. The mind is hyperactive, and now the body is not supporting them.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of asana, that we have to relax and slow the body, so that one day the mind will relax and slow down, so that one day we will have time and space to realize, hey, what is this mind? I am creating my life out of this mind. Oh my goodness, I need to refine it. I need to adjust it. This is where real yoga starts.
Well, maybe then this is a very good place for me to ask you this question, because I only have a few more minutes here. But is that the place of heart and devotion, these more softer emotional words and thoughts and ideas, because to be still in bed for 4 weeks. I remember you had spoken a while back about meditation and about self-esteem as a root cause for the inability to sit still and not be active. And it seems that this is the same sort of thing that you're getting towards here now in the asana as well, and then the mind. So maybe you could speak a little bit about the heart and about self-esteem, and if it's applicable, about how the notion of devotion, not necessarily as classically going, but just devotion even in asana practice. What is that?
Wow, that's if you get me started on this topic, then it will be a long discourse. But just to squeeze
5 minutes.
Just to squeeze it in 1 or 2 variables is, number one, the question of why can't we sit still? Yeah. Somewhere I feel, many people say, oh, I tried meditation, but I just can't do it. So how many days did you try? I did a weekend program of meditation, I just can't do it. And people are ready to just push it away. Why can't you sit still? You can't sit still because when you sit, you feel you are not productive. When you realize you're not productive, you feel you have no value. Because since the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago, we have been all conditioned with the mindset that, hey, if your productivity depends on what you produce, or your value depends on what you produce.
Very deep thought.
The whole issue of man hour. How many man hours have you worked? The man hours.
Well, what are you doing with your life? Are you contributing? Are you?
Yeah. Like minimum wage is calculated. Now you see in some states in America raised to $15 an hour. Who calculates that? So, for example, if somebody is working on those minimum wages, he sits and meditates for 1 hour. The moment he opens up his eyes, he'll say, oh, I just lost $15. If I would have worked in some cafeteria as a waiter or waitress for this 1 hour, I would have earned $15. In those $15, I would have paid my food bill or something. So we are now caught up in a continuous value chain And some way we have become a part of this value chain. If I meditate for 2 hours a day, I will earn $30 less. If I earn $30 less, I will have to cut some desire. I have to cut one meal or something. This is what is happening. And that's why sitting for 15 minutes gives us such a deep sense of worthlessness. Because meditation is basically sitting and doing nothing. And we don't like to sit and do nothing because we feel when we sit and do nothing, we are worthless. Like for example, a teenage person, a child is sitting and just sitting. And a father or mother goes, why are you sitting there? Do something. Don't just sit there. Do something. You know, we've heard a lot from our parents or even now. Hey, why are you just sitting? Do something. At least read something. Do something. So when I make you sit and do nothing, you're not going to like it. Because all that you've heard in your life is do something. And now suddenly you come to a meditation class and I'm telling you do nothing. Why should your belief system adjust to that? This restlessness doesn't make you.
And the meditation, I mean, what to talk about in meditation is, I think it's easier to see the phenomena you're talking about. But actually, what you were speaking about earlier in doing asana, and finally finishing the doing and assuming the asana, essentially it's a moment of the same thing.
Absolutely.
So for a person camping out in Trikonasana, thinking, what am I doing here? What am I doing? When's the next posture? Why are we staying here? How many more breaths?
Yes.
And instead of just allowing themselves to just be.
That's why asana has not much to do with the physical posture. You can feel a meditative contentment in Trikonasana, but you may not feel meditative contentment in meditation posture. It's not about the body. For example, some person may sit on the softest of cushion, take the best of the mudra, close his eyes, and be faced with his hyperactive mind. That's not meditative. But somebody who works with deep contentment and acceptance may go into triangle, a trikonasana, just to the level of the knees, and just say, this is where I am today. Fine. I just enjoy my breath here. That person is more meditative. That person has got the asana of the posture. But this person who is sitting in a meditative posture has not got the asana, the to be aspect of the posture.
So this marries the idea of meditation and asana very closely, actually. And in terms of, as a teacher for myself, I might think about what am I trying to impart and share in my classes as what are we doing? And I guess when I'm hearing you speak about it, it really is trying to generate that meditative state.
Excellent. Yeah. So one simple brief for every teacher of asana would be, every movement that you do in asana should lead you to stillness. That's the simple brief. Your asana practice should lead you to stillness. That's it. Okay.
Prasad, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.